Hello, everyone. This is Omar from hello. This is Omar from the new podcast called American Me. Welcome, everybody. We hope we're gonna have a good show today. What up, everybody? How are you? Let me see this go. All right. It never works. Every time I do something, it never works. I got bad luck over here, man. I hope everybody's doing fine, man. Happy what? Tuesday or Wednesday? I don't even know what day it is. That's how confused I am. Not doing anything, but I'm glad to be on today. I have a small show for you guys. Be patient, man. I'm going through a lot. I mean, the whole idea is that, you know, you need energy to do some sort of stuff. And sometimes you don't have that energy or that thing, or you want to do so much that there's so much news that it's unbelievable to do. So today I have a small show. We're gonna go over the debate between that idiot, what's his name, Douglas Murray, who was there just as a prop up for Israel, and our boy Dave Smith, the comic with the brain. You understand? This is the whole idea that when they were debating, what's his name? I'm trying to make sure that the sound is working before I start. You know, I have did a lot of shows without sound, believe it or not. At the last second, I'll find out. I'm like, oh gosh, come on. Okay, hold on. Allah, ya Rabbi. All right. It's 5:00 Eastern time. Anyway, okay, we're gonna do the debate. We're gonna go over the debate between David Smith and what's his name, Douglas Murray. You know, Douglas Murray. He's a person who is what do you call these people who are owned by other entities, who serve other masters, who do not think for themselves. You understand what I'm saying? Is that so? His whole idea was to go to on Joe Rogan. The whole idea was just to go on Joe Rogan and try to stand up to Joe Rogan for the crowd that hate him, because Joe Rogan had the audacity to really have his own guest, free will to platform whoever he wants to. But Douglas Murray was their candidate. You know, the ADL, all the guys, you know, all the alphabet order, all the boys all over the place. He was sent to do that. And you could tell from the get-go, I don't have the right here, Joe Rogan, why don't you have any experts? Don't you should have historians? English accent is no good. You know, we grew up thinking that English people with the English accent were very smart people. Oh my gosh, look how smart he is. You guys got to be careful. And then Piers Morgan came, Douglas Murray. We found out that they are really idiots, and we were misled by the British accent and the British bullshit and drinking tea. Anyway, so we're going to look at a couple of things here and just go over them. Let's start. I'm just going to pick things at random because my eyesight is not that good. Let's get to it. Let me see it.
Bigger, kind of the bigger picture.
Hold on. Let me get it from the beginning. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Anyway. Okay, hold on. Let me fix this up. You're probably bored to death already. I don't give a damn. I ain't getting paid by the channel anyway. Not making no money. I'm the only one. I'm the only human being on YouTube who never made money, who spent more on advertisement to get these things. Got this channel from a friend of mine. 2 million people thinking. Anyway, so this is Dave Smith on the Joe Rogan podcast. Now, Dave Smith, he is a comedian, but he's a very smart person. You've seen him in debates. He hates wars. He's a libertarian. He believes in free for all, and he has his own beliefs. but the majority of the time he's on the right side of history. Yeah, he has no skin in the game. He's Jewish, and he's condemning Israel. So you got to give him credit for that, not because he's Jewish, because he is standing in the right way. He's saying the truth, and he's speaking truth to power. Douglas Murray has nothing to stand on. Who the hell is he to defend what's going on in Israel, according to him? Let's see what they have to say, and we're going to, just do it and stop it, and let's get to the videotape.
I do also think that one of the bigger, kind of the bigger picture dynamics to all of this is that we have, at least since 9/11, been in a state of perpetual war. And all of these wars have been disasters. They have been so many lies involved in selling all of them. I mean, the whole Iraq war, the whole war in Afghanistan, just lying the whole way through. I mean, I remember literally having conversations with Green Berets in the middle of the war in Afghanistan, and they're like, George W. Bush is telling you that the army we're building up there is really successful. This thing's going to fall in a week without us. And then all through the Obama administration, it's just like lie after lie after lie with disastrous wars. And so this does create a fertile ground for people to say, I wonder if they were lying about all these wars.
Sure.
Again, I'm not really trying to argue about World War II. I'd rather argue about these wars today.
I think the interesting question is whether you're busy watering it.
Well, should you not talk about mistakes that were made overall?
Absolutely.
Okay, you should.
Absolutely.
Right.
I'm all for going back and looking at mistakes.
So what is your argument then?
It's a very weird thing to go back, zone in on a man, say this one thing is a mistake and should characterize him, and you ignore everything else.
You're taking him out of context when you're talking about Daryl, who's done, what was it, 30-plus hours?
So what? 30-plus hours of podcast.
Now, if you don't know who Daryl Cooper is, he's like a guy who has a podcast, who writes history, and he has a different take. The whole idea, this guy's upset because he said Churchill was the evil person in the World War II, that he could have stopped the war anytime he wanted to. Anyway, he was there. He was sent by his backers to discredit Daryl Cooper and Ian Carroll, and that was about it. He was not there to debate David Smith. He was not there. He was trying to make a point. He wanted to tell it like it is to Joe Rogan's face, and all that stuff.
You do that in a week.
But it's a very different thing.
He's not doing a podcast like talking to people.
Okay, nor is he doing scholarly work, nor is he working in the archives, clearly. Come on. I mean, he is not the historian of our era.
He's not
He never said that.
This is the thing, Joe. This is like punching jelly.
No, but you don't consume his work.
What I'm saying, because I don't need to consume endless versions of a revisionist history. I understand.
But
I know where this comes
revisionist
from.
history. If you listen to his work, it's not revisionist history. He's basing it on historical work.
I know. But okay, so this is my point about jelly. It's a shape-shifting thing. Comedian
How about peanut butter?
or historian?
He's not a comedian.
Historian or podcast? Would-be historian or actual historian? You say he doesn't claim to be a historian, but he's pumping out tens of hours of
Neither
history.
does Dan Carlin. He doesn't claim to be a historian either.
You see my point about the move. It's like some weird jiu-jitsu move where you say, hang on, you know all about this as well. You say, I'm not a historian, but I'm going to spend my time talking about history. I'm not a journalist, but I'm going to spend my time talking about...
So the whole idea with this asshole is saying is that I'm a reporter. I went to Oxford. I have the credential. What he's saying is that only right now, but he's going to get some pushback, is only people who have this chronic narcissistic behavior are able to comment on history, to talk about history. I could talk about history. I used to talk about it a lot. I read books like everybody else. Then I bring my opinion. There's so many books. You could form an opinion. You don't have to be a professor. You don't have to be a guy with a British accent, a douchebag like this guy. You don't have to be all that stuff. You can have an opinion. You understand? But what he's trying to say is, Joe, I mean, he's not a scholar, and he's not he didn't go to school like me. Good. I hope it doesn't.
About this thing. I'm not an expert on this, but I'm going to spend my time talking about this.
Why not?
It's a weird move, yeah?
No.
You don't think?
No, I'm a free American. I can talk about what I like
American,
to.
man.
So what is the point
I've
here?
noticed you can, but
So,
we
what's
all
the
can.
point?
The point is, what are you pushing? What are you watering?
What am
Why?
I pushing?
Yes.
Liberty, free markets, peace.
Now, you might be wondering why he said the word, what are you pushing? Because he is a single virgin. Is that the word? He's there to push something. So he has an axe to grind. Dave Smith has nothing in the game. He has no skin in the game. He's not a politician. He's not getting an award from the Israeli government for reporting on the genocide and lying about it. He doesn't have any of that accolades that he's getting. So he's like, what you're pushing here, because I'm here. I've been sent by my handlers to try to push around Joe Rogan and call you a comedian that you have no right to debate. But he doesn't have anything. He's not selling you anything. Dave Smith is not selling you anything. He's just talking his mind as a free American. That's all he's doing. God bless America.
Prosperity, not getting in another stupid catastrophic war, which we're on the precipice of right now. That's what I'm pushing.
What are we on the precipice of?
Well, I think weren't you just talking about it the other day? Everyone I hear on the inside says we're about to attack Iran. I think you just said something about that the other day. Am I wrong about that? I thought I saw in one of your interviews that you did.
Possibly.
No.
Okay. That doesn't mean we are on the verge of a war. I mean, you keep referring to we being in wars. There's a very big difference between a country having a military that's engaged and a country being at war. This country has not been at war for 25 years. You have not been fighting for the American homeland for 25 years.
Yes, we haven't. That's true.
Right.
Translation. Let me translate it. What he's saying is that it's not a war as long as we're on another continent killing brown people. That's all it is. If we're there for 25 years, losing a war and killing as many women and children as possible, destroying other countries' infrastructure, it's not a war. The only time is a war if we're being attacked in Los Angeles and California, if we're defending the homeland. This is idiotic. This is the guy who's supposed to be the expert. He's there to make fun of Dave Smith. This is the thinking. These people are arrogant and ignorant at the same time. They have this idea that, a war is not a war as long as you're killing other people in a faraway continent. This is what he was trying to say. It's not a war. Good, Dave. I love you, Dave. Good.
We haven't had a war on our shores. We've been picking on third world countries halfway around the world.
That's right.
You haven't been randomly picking on them. I mean, Afghanistan, you went...
I didn't say it was random.
Yeah, right, okay. It wasn't like you suddenly decided to bomb, again, Myanmar or something. We went for Afghanistan to find bin Laden and take revenge for 9/11 and stop an attack like that happening again on the American homeland. That is very different from a country being at war.
Yeah, but that's a total mischaracterization of the war in Afghanistan. It's one thing to say that might be an accurate characterization of the special operations mission in late 2001, but then we fought a 20-year regime change war against the Taliban.
Because you got dragged into the quicksand of war.
Oh, yes. Okay, fine. But fine. I thought it wasn't a war. Like, what? I don't get your argument.
No, I said it was a war. It's your use of we, as if you're personally like suffering this war. I mean, you're a taxpayer.
When I say we,
we're taxpayers,
implied,
so we pay for it. Okay, fine.
Douglas, would you go, if I went back and corrected you on every time you've used the term we to refer to your government or something like that? Like if I were to say, oh, we just imposed tariffs on China, would you point out that I didn't and it was the Trump administration?
I'm saying you take it obviously very personally, and that's your right to do so, of course. I'm just trying to make sure we're accurate here.
What do you think I'm taking personally?
Just that, the American wars.
Sure, yeah. They've killed hundreds of thousands of people and cost my country $8 trillion and degraded my country very much.
And there's a very good argument to make on that. I'm still slightly bemused about this.
He's bemused. Don't you get the idea this guy's a fucking idiot? He'll make an argument, a silly argument. Once he gets pushback from Dave, he'll say, oh, yeah, I agree with you. Then he agree with them. Then why make the argument in the first place? What are you doing? Why would you make the argument in the first place if you know that you're going to get pushback? This is the problem with newcons and warmongers like him. He wrote the book on newcons and how wars are good and everything. Yeah, you know, I feel sorry for you. The British Empire is dead and England is about to collapse into the sea, into the ocean. That was it. That's it. I think we got more, right? Let me try. Okay.
move from I'm an expert on this and I have views to I'm a comedian.
I've never claimed to be an expert on anything.
See? Now he's making it personal. Oh, you're going to talk about something, but if you don't get it right, you're going to say I'm a comedian. He just pushed back on every argument you made, and you ended up agreeing with him. What the hell is wrong with this guy, man?
This is the problem, Joe. I mean, if somebody
Wait a minute,
says
you have to claim to be an expert on something to have an opinion on something?
You don't have to be. You don't have to be.
Then he goes
So
back.
what's
Look,
the
Like,
issue?
I'm not a
Reverse.
historian, but I'm pumping
He's a
out.
reverse guy. He likes
I'm
to
not
do
an
bottom
expert,
feeder,
but I'm
by the way.
talking all the time about
But
this
you're not
thing.
even talking about specifically on what he just said.
No, I'm saying this is my point about this. You say I'm not an expert.
So what's the solution? To not talk about it?
No, it's to have more experts around.
It's all about the
The
expert.
expert
To
class
hear-
hasn't done a great job.
I
All
know,
about the experts.
absolutely,
Yeah, but you know what?
absolutely, I
Okay, so
agree
fine.
with
So
that.
during-
I just said
okay,
to you,
so-
I agree
right,
with that.
right, I know.
But
So
one
Douglas,
of the problems
during
is,
all of
Fire
COVID,
away.
I will put my track record against any of the expert class on COVID. I'm glad to do that. So should I have just shut up? Should I have shut up by opposing lockdowns and opposing vaccine mandates
No.
and
Well,
talking
that
about
was
the
the
lab leak
argument at the
theory?
time. You realize
that's
that,
the
right?
entire argument that you're making. Let the experts handle
I'm
this.
not.
All right, there you go. That's the first segment. So as you see, the Douglas Murray, whatever his name is, he thought he was going to get away on his British accent, and we were supposed to take it for that accent. He is not making any sense, my friends. The whole idea is he's attacking. Then once he gets pushback from Dave Smith, he goes, "Oh, I agree with that." It's not a war because we're not actually fighting on the border of California. We're actually just killing people in Afghanistan, in Libya, in Iraq, in Syria. So that's not a war. As long as we're killing other people that don't look like us, people who are poor, who have issues and problems, it's okay to kill them. But then when he tells them, well, it costs us trillions of dollars, a lot of American GIs died. Oh, yeah, you're right. Then once he gets pushed back, he reverses and agrees. Then he goes to he's a comedian. He's not an expert. He wants to reinforce that idea that he's an Oxford graduate, but nobody said that. And I don't think he's any person, he has no agency. You know what I'm talking about. The guy is married to another guy. Forgive me, man. I have nothing to say to him. All right, let's look at the next thing. Okay.
Answering my question.
You're continuing to cite I'm getting there.
right-wing Israeli
Okay, wait. Hold on.
politicians. But what do you
I'm
think
getting
is
there.
the reason?
I'm getting there. I'm saying, so I think they disengaged in order to kill the peace process. I think they put the full blockade around the country for the reason that they've always kind of done it there. That they don't want too much stuff. One of the bigger getting in, they want to keep them as they put it on a diet, and they don't. Is that we have rockets to fly into Israel? At least since 9/11, been in a state of perpetual war. And all of these wars.
Start over. I think I had a problem.
I do also think that one of the bigger, kind of the bigger picture dynamics to all of this is that we have, at least since 9/11, been in a state of perpetual war. And all of these wars have been disasters. They have been so many lies involved in selling all of them. I mean, the whole Iraq war, the whole war in Afghanistan, just lying the whole way through. I mean, I remember literally having conversations with Green Berets in the middle of the war in Afghanistan, and they're like, George W. Bush is telling you that the army we're building up there is really successful. This thing's going to fall in a week without us. And then all through the Obama administration, it's just like lie after lie after lie with disastrous wars. And so this does create a fertile ground for people to say, I wonder if they were lying about all these wars.
Sure.
Again, I'm not really trying to argue with you about World War II. I'd rather argue about these wars today.
I think the interesting question is whether you're busy watering it.
Well, should you not talk about mistakes that were made overall?
Absolutely.
Okay, you should.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right. I'm all for going back and looking at mistakes.
So what is your argument then?
It's a very weird thing to go back,
this
zone
already.
in
What's going
on a
on?
man, say this
Hold on,
one
what are you
thing
doing?
is a mistake and
Hold
should
on.
characterize him. And you
Yeah, oh my gosh.
You're not answering my question. You're
Yes, no,
continuing to cite
I'm getting there.
right-wing Israeli politicians. But what do you
I'm
think
getting
is
there.
the reason?
I'm getting there. I'm saying, so I think they disengaged in order to kill the peace process. I think they put the full blockade around the country for the reason that
question.
Yes, no. I'm getting.
All right. So Douglas Maher's argument, every Israeli argument is, we left in 2005. We left them to their own devices, and instead of building it and making Singapore, they build these tunnels and these bombs and these rockets out of Suez metal, and they never left. The Israeli military never left. What they did is they just put a wall all around it, a jail, and they told them, okay, you guys take care of the jail yourself. It's like, having people in jail until the convicts listen. And the Palestinians are not convicts. I'm just trying to give you an idea. Is that we're going to control the water, the electricity, the food. They had them on a diet. The Israeli government and the Jews of Israel, who were put on a diet in Poland during the ghetto uprisings, they were put on a diet, they say, by the German SS, are doing the same thing to the Palestinian in their own land. They put them on, I think, 2,100 calories a day. I'm going to show you the list of, just dropped the phone and I hate that. I'm going to show you the list of the stuff that were banned. Let's just watch this.
Very right-wing Israeli politicians. But what do you
I'm getting
think
there.
is the reason?
I'm getting there. I'm saying, so I think they disengaged in order to kill the peace process. I think they put the full blockade around the country for the reason that they've always kind of done it there, that, they don't want too much stuff getting in. They want to keep them, as they put it, on a diet, and they don't want rockets to fly into Israel.
The second one is a kind of important one, isn't it? The final one
Yeah,
you said.
it is.
If the Palestinian leadership in Gaza after 2005 had not from the get-go decided to use Gaza as a stockpiling place for rockets to fire into Israel, all of it would be different. If they had just resisted the temptation that so many of us do in our lives to stop keeping RPGs in our cellars and then Katyusha rockets in our children's bedrooms, all of it could have been different. If that desire to live in peace beside your neighbors had superseded the desire to stockpile rockets, it would all be different.
Yeah, or if
and
Israel just hadn't occupied them for 60 years, it would all be different too.
The
onus always on them.
Well, you believe in self-determination, I'm sure. Yes.
I believe in individual rights, yeah, sure.
Okay, individual rights. And that includes the right to make bad decisions. Sure. Yes. The Palestinians in Gaza, when they voted in Hamas, made a very bad decision.
Yeah, of course,
and
Douglas.
In the years, hang on. And in the years after that, they made bad decision after bad decision. It was a very bad decision to continually fire thousands
on the country for the.
If the Palestinian leadership in Gaza after 2005 had not from the get-go decided to use Gaza as a stockpiling place for rockets to fire into Israel, all of it would be different. If they had just resisted the temptation that so many of us do in our lives to stop keeping RPGs in our cellars and then Katyusha.
Resisted? What do you want to resist? Like not smoking pot or smoking cigarette or drinking in our life? These are people who are fighting for their personal freedom. You got to look at the whole premises. You have these people who are occupied. Dave Smith is going to put some light on it. For 60 years, the occupation has to go. There will be no problem. Let these people, have their own country, determine their own destiny, and leave them alone. That's it. You don't have to outlaw paperwork or Pampers or chocolates or things of that nature. You make a bad decision after a bad decision. As if they took some bad habit of smoking cigarettes.
Rockets in our children's bedrooms. All of it could have been different. If that desire to live in peace beside your neighbors had superseded the desire to stockpile rockets,
See how dishonest this piece of shit is. They're not neighbors. It is an occupier and an occupied. It is like a slave and an enslaved person. They don't have the same relationship. So they're not neighbors. Those people are subjugated to the power that has monopoly on the guns. If you look at it, every 2-3 years, they had a policy of calling it mowing the lawn. The whole idea, you see how disgusting it is? The idea of mowing the lawn, like what you do here in my house, if I go outside and mow the grass, is every 3-4 years, Israel will go with their airplane, the Air Force, and pick targets, destroy buildings, kill Palestinian leaders for 4 or 5 days, 1,400, 1,500 dead, then they leave. They did that like 3 times before October 7th. It's been done since 2008. So you are mowing the lawn. So where's the peace? Where's the neighborly peace? It is not a neighbor. If let's say my house or my neighbor, I got a good neighbor though, controls what goes into my house, what I eat, the electricity, shut it off whenever he wants to. Once in a while, he goes crazy and start breaking the windows and probably kill one of my kids by, deliberately, not by accident. And then he'll say, "Oh, we gotta stop. Look at Omar. It's me. Look at Omar. He's forcing me to destroy his house every day. You understand? And he's holding the deed to my house."
Would all be different.
Yeah, or if
And
Israel
what
just
you
hadn't
describe
occupied
as-
them for 60 years, it would all
Thank
be
you.
different too.
They
I mean,
weren't
why is it the onus
occupying.
always
They
on
weren't
them?
Well, you believe in self-determination, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
I believe in
okay.
individual rights. Yeah, sure.
Okay, individual rights. And that includes the right to make bad decisions. Yes. The Palestinians in Gaza, when they voted in Hamas, made a very bad decision.
Yeah, of course,
and
Douglas.
In the
but
years,
but,
hang on.
Yes.
Hang on. And in the years after that, they made bad decision after bad
Fucking
decision.
him with the word bad
It was a
decision.
very bad decision
Yeah, they
to
smoke
continually
cigarettes.
fire thousands of rockets into Israel. It was a very bad decision to use what boats came in early on and to use the smuggling networks from Egypt, not to bring in supplies you could actually build a thriving society with, but to bring in rockets. It was a very bad idea. No, there was not starvation in Gaza after 2005. No, there was no deficit of goods coming in. I've been plenty of...
He's a fucking liar, and I have to prove it here. Hold on. I'm going to prove this. This is from a Jewish newspaper called Haaretz. Look at the food in 2009 that was not allowed to the Palestinian inside Gaza. He said there was no deficit of food. Okay, you see it? Let me see. I got to make it as close as possible. I'm going to put that thing right straight to my eyes. You see it? Okay, here we go. Household items. Hey, papers. What's that? Crayons was not allowed. Crayons. Stationery like paper, soccer balls, and musical instruments have been at all times banned. Yeah, for more, including toilet paper. It was not allowed as a banned good. Though the PCC list, let's go to the Jewish newspaper. It's called Haaretz. Haaretz is the Jewish. It's like the New York Times of the Jews. The following items were banned in 2009: books, candles, crayons, clothing, cups, cutlery. I don't know what's that, crockery. I don't know what the hell that is. Light bulbs, matches, musical instruments, needles, sheets, blankets, shoes, mattresses, spare machines, and car parts and thread. You know the thread you do the needle. And this motherfucker, he's here on Joe Rogan. Tell us there was no there's no deficit of food. There was no deficit of food. Finish. Filthy animal. Go. You see, so they banned everything, man. They banned the birthday candles.
No deficit?
No, there are
No
plenty
goods were kept out.
There are plenty. How many? Have you been to the crossing points?
No.
Oh, here we go. No?
When were you last there at all?
Never
here
been.
we go.
You've never been.
Oh, you never
Well,
been there?
Am I not allowed to talk about it now? Have you ever been to Nazi Germany? Are you allowed to have feelings about them?
You can't time travel, but you can. But you can travel.
Okay, but so what? So what's the point? Like,
no,
okay.
I find that
lots of people have been there and agree with me, and lots of people have been there and agree with you.
Yeah, but
so
if
I don't
you're
know
going to
what
spend a year and a half talking about a place, you should at least do the courtesy of visiting it.
All right. I just think this is a non-argument.
You don't
but
think?
Okay. No, I think it's a non-argument.
But if you're an expert,
well, you have to go and.
I remember this reminds me of Sarah Palin when she was running for vice president with the late McCain, John McCain, and she said she was the governor of Alaska. I see Russia from my house. It's ice. Actually, and the person said, I see the moon when I come out of my house. It's the same thing. You don't have to be there in order to talk about. Nobody's allowed in there. The Israeli government is not allowing any journalist to go inside the Gaza. Nobody.
Touch the ground.
No, I think you have to. I think it's a good idea to see stuff, particularly if you spend a career talking about something. Yes. I have a journalistic rule of trying never to talk about a country even in passing unless I've at least been there.
I gotta make sure.
Okay.
It's a sort of normal it's a normal thing to do. You're talking about crossing points. And not only have you never been to a crossing point in either Egypt or in Israel, but you've never even been to the
there.
region.
Look at this guy.
Okay.
He's been
Again,
there.
I think this is a non-argument. I don't understand.
No, it's not a non-argument.
Yeah, it is.
It's not a non-argument if you're insisting that you're an expert of some kind, or not claiming you're an expert, but still talking about
You're saying that.
about the provisions going into Gaza or not, if you've never seen any of this going on.
So you're not
That's
allowed to
amazing
speak
to
about
me.
things that you've read about. You can only speak about things that you've seen with your own eyes.
You can talk about what you want, as you're proving. But that is a different matter from spending an awfully long amount of time talking about an issue in a region you haven't even had the courtesy to visit, whilst developing all of these views about it. I mean, now I slightly get an idea of where you're coming from. You've read about this blockade, and so you imagine that that's what it is. I imagine you've read all the people who say that Gaza was a concentration camp, and you probably think that too.
Let me get the phone now.
Am I right?
I mean, again, literally a concentration camp. It shares a lot of similarities, I would think.
Wow. Well, as I say, you can't time travel
Let's
back
go back
to
to
the
the
Nazi era.
Let's
but
go
you
back to
could
the blockade.
Go to the Middle
okay.
East and actually visit it.
Okay,
It's
the
not hard to
World
do.
Bank said in 1996 for the one
Now
year
the
of the
libertarians
blockade.
are quoting the World Bank. I
No,
love
he
it.
don't-
It
the World
doesn't
Bank now
mean
is not
anything. This is a non-argument. Yes, I'm saying the World Bank did their own analysis of this, and they said that it was
Why
a
don't
40%
you do
of
your
the,
own analysis?
Hold on. You got to
Jesus,
stop
Cyrus.
interrupting
Okay.
and let him finish
I
the
will.
sentence.
The
Fire
World
away.
Bank said that 40% drop in the GDP of 1 year due to the blockade. And there's been a blockade from 2007 on. So are you saying that this hasn't had an economic effect? Is that the argument?
No, of course it'll have an economic effect.
So you're saying you have to be on the ground and do an audit of the blockade in order to be able to comment
I
on
think you
it?
should at least know what it is, what the territory is, what the situation is in the region. Yes,
Yeah, that's why
absolutely.
you read.
And the only way
Let's
to
go
do
read
that
it.
is to be there in person.
I think that's the best way. It's not the only way, but it's the best way, for sure. For sure.
Nobody's allowed in there.
If you have never seen the countries in question, you've never spoken to the people in question, you've never interviewed anyone, you've never gone around, you've never seen the terrain, and so on, and you've used Wikipedia, I'm sorry, no, that's not the same thing.
Okay, well, I've not just used Wikipedia, but didn't you write a big piece when the war in Ukraine first came out titled something like, I've been to Ukraine and they can win, they can repel the Russians? So you could go there and still get it wrong, right?
No, I was with the Ukrainian armed forces in 2022 when they were retaking territory from the Russians.
Right, the last time they had any advances, yeah.
Yeah,
right.
I said I can see how they can win, which would be advances like that, yeah.
You
Sure.
said if we just fund them, or if we just
No,
arm
I
them,
didn't
that
say
they can then
I said,
they can
I
repel.
said that the Ukrainian army was making great successes, which it was when I was with them in the fall of 22.
Okay, listen, there were lots of
But-
people who went to Iraq and said we'll be greeted as liberators and
I
it'll
know,
be paid
but-
for in oil and democracy will spread through the region. So I don't know. Either take on the arguments or don't. But I don't
But
think
I'm saying,
like.
but your argument's incorrect.
Oh, okay, fine. Well, then present a counter argument to it. But to just tell me I'm not allowed to talk about something
I'm
because I'm
not
not an
saying
expert.
you're not allowed to
okay,
talk
fine. Well,
about
you're
it.
not
I've
an
said
expert, so you
repeatedly,
shouldn't
you're
talk
talking
about
about
it.
it
You
now.
haven't been there. Yeah, I know. But you keep playing this game where it's like the whole opening to this podcast was like the non-experts talking about this is such a problem. Now you're saying because I
don't
haven't been
think-
there, I can't talk about it. Is there a blockade there that's causing economic devastation or not? According to the World Bank, there is.
All right, there you go. There you have it, guys. Excuse me, my itching there. I have more clips, but I'm gonna spare you this idiot over here, who's a fucking total idiot. So what he tells first, he tells
you're
us,
taking him out of context when you're talking about Daryl, who's done, what was it, 30 plus hours?
Yes,
What are you doing? Come on, guys. Cut it out. Cut it out. Cut it out. So the whole idea, if you saw the debate, is every time his whole shtick was, well, I'm an expert, and guys should not be talking about things you don't know anything about. And if you want to talk about these things, you actually have to be there. Okay, if I talk about the moon and how the moon relates to the oceans and the waters at night, do I have to go to the moon? Steve Hawking, he was in a wheelchair and he would look like a pretzel, and he's talking about black holes in the universe. This is an idiotic debate. He didn't come there to debate. He had his whole mission was he was there to berate Joe Rogan. When he saw how big Joe Rogan is, I don't mean tall, but how muscle he has, he'll whip his ass in there. He kind of changed his mind. And every time he talked to Dave Smith, you have to talk to the expert. And then when Dave Smith goes to source the World Bank, he said, why you have to source the World? Why can't you make your own opinion? You understand? He's I'm a Bolshevism. He's eating out of his ass and mouth. Literally, he's doing that. You understand? This is the whole idea. And now let's go to another idiot here. Is that him? Is he?
Deportation.
Exactly.
It's this way. All right.
Okay. All right.
Against deportation.
Exactly.
It's this way.
All right, we're going to go now. Come on, man. Okay. You ready? Go.
Loving act against deportation.
Exactly.
It's this way. All right, slightly related to deportation, but trickier question.
All right, let me give you a little background on this. This is Islamophobe who hates Muslims. He hates Islam. He hates everything about Muslims. I mean, the guy's a piece of shit. He's a piece of work, like they say, huh? I pressed the wrong one. Come on. Yeah, see what I did? See what I did? Let me go see what I did. Cancel, okay? Stop. All right, there you go. Okay, this is Bill Maher on his real-time show. He had a guy named Josh Rogan, a good guy. I think he works for the New York Times, who's actually Jewish and knows what he's talking about. And he had the usual hypocrites who want to score points, like Piers Morgan and Bill Maher, who want to be good boys and who want to score points with the Israeli lobby or the Israeli government or those who support Israel in order to save their careers. They think their careers depends on being hypocrites and liars and deny reality. Let's see what they have to say. They are talking about, which sometimes I agree with Bill Maher, about people being deported or losing their green card because they speak against Israel. I never heard of such a thing. Only now it's happening in the United States, and I never in my whole life thought it would happen. I'm going to get to it in a minute. Let's just listen to this. I'm going to tell you what the new law is going on. Let me tell you what the new law is. There's a new law by the... Let me do this. Hold on. Let me give an introduction to this because it has to do with that, and I have other videos. And I'm not organized. I'm not the best guy to organize myself, but I have something to say. So the whole idea is that okay, all right, okay. There's a new law that just came out. Well, it's an old law. There's two laws. In the 1950s, during the Joe McCarthy era, where the Red Scare, where everybody was a communist, they put a lot of people on blacklists, like entertainers and actors and producers, and the majority of these people were Jewish. Then they enacted this law, an immigration law that gives the Secretary of State the right to deport anybody he wants, whether they has visitors or students or even have green cards sometime, and maybe even naturalized citizens. This law was specially made and tailored to deport Jewish Americans who at that time they thought were communist sympathizers or communist in itself, during that time. So the law, that's why I hate laws like that stay a long time. It's like they hover. It's like a disease that lives inside you and then just erupts after 30, 40 years. Now, there's a lot of Jewish organizations who are given names, a list of names of people to deport under that law. That law was originally made to suppress and oppress Jewish Americans and see them as communists. For them to use the same law and to gloat that the same law is being used to deport students is unbelievable and mind-boggling. So we're going to get to that sketch. Let me give you what the new law is right now. This morning, our friend here at the Department of Homeland and Security, right? What did they write? Hold on. Okay, let me see. I wrote it down here because I don't, I can't see that far. I'm blind as a fucking bat here. And at the insult injury, what I do, I put on a, okay, hold on, get out of here. Okay, Department of Homeland Security. Okay, this is the new law here. Okay, ready? This is in America. Now, this law says you cannot criticize Israel. And if you criticize Israel, it is anti-Semitism. Now, you have to ask the question, why are Jewish Americans put on the spot? I think there's more anti-Semitism and more danger for them to be put in that kind of pedestal. So how come we don't have law for blacks? You mean I could talk about blacks all day? Or Christians, or whites, or Indians, or Arabs, or Muslim, it's okay. But if I talk about Israel, you get deported. This is the new law. Ready? The new law on aliens posting about Israel on social media, U.S. and Israel update. This is about people who write on Twitter or Facebook or YouTube. Remember that when they used to silence right-wing Americans or people that they didn't enjoy their ideas or like that? They used to take their PayPal account. They used to deprive them of making money. Still, some of them are banned until this day. The same thing, the right-wing government or our government, the Republican government is doing the same thing the liberals were doing. So it is unbelievable. They're all garbage. They're all ready. If someone supports or promotes anti-Semitic views, okay, we're against that. Anti-Semitism is a bad thing to do. Views or shows sympathy for Hamas and Hezbollah. Nobody wants that. You want me to translate it? Or show sympathy with the people getting killed in Gaza, or talk about the genocide in Gaza. Or other groups, they may be denied immigration benefits. This includes students, green card applicants, and visitors tied to any group accused of anti-Semitism or terrorism. Now, you have to ask the question as an American is, do we have free speech? Are we all right to talk on social media like we do? Why are we curtailing a certain group of people from being criticized? You understand? It's not against the law to talk about other minorities or groups or people. It's against the law to actually to physically harm these people or create an environment that is dangerous. There is no anti-Semitism is not out of control in the United States. Americans are not doing what they're saying. Nobody's chasing Jews around the neighborhood and trying to hurt them, and that's against the law, and we agree with that. But the whole idea, when you make when you tell people they can't talk on social media, and they do, you're gonna. This is what's going to happen. It's a slippery slope. This is like musical chairs. When we used to play musical chairs, we go around and around and around. There's one seat that one guy doesn't have a seat or one girl, and then when they go to sit down, that person is out. Eventually, the musical chair idea of censorship will visit everybody. Then they will expand to naturalized citizens. I know they're going to do that they're going to expand to conservative radio hosts, to conservative YouTube channels again, and little by little, and eventually is going to bite the people supporting it, which are billionaire Jewish Americans who think this is going to help them because they want to put lipstick on a pig. They don't want people to talk about the genocide that's going on in Gaza. I think any decent American, Jews, Christian, Muslim, whatever they want, we are against the murder and killing of children. And we are against the hatred of people for what they are in America. In America, we are made of many. We are a nation of ideas, an experiment in history where the many of different came and created this greatness. So it is a dangerous thing to do. And to attack social media posts. Imagine that in this day and age in 2025. So let's go to, let me show you this guy over here. Is it him?
Is scream.
No, that's not him. Wait.
Much more.
That's coming later.
What was your initial reaction when you heard about?
Okay, hold on. Forgive me. Okay, this is a student, I think he's called Mahmoud Al-Audi. He's a student at Columbia College who is being deported because an organization called Stop Anti-Semitism reported him as a terrorist sympathizer. But listen, this is about a year ago. What he said, I have two videos. There's a video of him getting arrested. What they did is he applied to be an American citizen because he's been here 10 years as a legal alien. On the day he went for the test, ICE was waiting for them there, and they arrested him. Now they're going to deport him. Now, you have to see the lies. They say, oh, he was an anti-Semitic hater. He hated Jews. He was doing all he can. This is him on 60 Minutes a year ago.
I could not believe what my eyes were seeing.
Okay, hold on. Okay.
What was your initial reaction when you heard about the Hamas attack on October 7th?
I could not believe what my eyes were seeing, where I see Hamas members getting into settlements and so on. But also the first moment I saw that, I put my hand on my heart. And I started praying, knowing.
Just to make it clear, the top video, those are ICE arresting him at the U.S. citizenship. He was there to take the test to be an American citizen. He was doing everything right. But we live in a time when there's a special group with power and money and influence dictating America's freedom of speech, freedom of expression, and it's dangerous for them too in the long run.
That there will be a huge level of revenge from the Israelis. And I was praying that this will not be the result, because it would be disastrous.
The night of the rally, I believe someone in the crowd said something very anti-Jewish, not just anti-Israeli, but anti-Jewish.
Yes, this was a walkout on November 9th. And a person comes down the stairs yelling, "Death to Jews."
What are you saying? Listen.
I was shocked.
Yes, okay.
And I walked directly to the person,
right.
And I told him, "You don't represent us, because this is not something that we agree with." And I took the megaphone and I gave a speech and I said, "We here are conscious, educated students, and we know how to separate right from wrong. What this guy has said is clearly anti-Semitic against Jews."
Anti-Semitic.
To be anti-Semitic is unjust. And the fight for the freedom of Palestine And the fight against anti-Semitism go hand in hand, because injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere.
So you see what happened to this guy? He was deported. Did he sound like he was an anti-Semite? Did he sound like he was pushing anti-Semitism or protesting? What is this? What's going on in college campuses? Well, what's going on? Can somebody give us some police report of these Jewish students who are being harassed? A matter of fact, the majority of the leaders of student leading the protests are Jews, American Jews, who know right from wrong. They are anti-Zionist Jews. And he's being deported for saying all the right things. And they had him on Twitter that there's a lot of accounts that gloat because these Muslim students are being deported. Your turn is going to come, believe it or not. You understand? Don't think you have consolidated power through the so-called civil rights movement where you use blacks to consolidate your power and be voted into power, then left them outside and closed the door. Your turn is going to come. You got to stop that. The threat of free speech to anybody is a threat to everybody. Don't think they're not going to come for you. Don't think you're above the law. History tells us you are the most endangered group. When things get bad, historically, Jewish have suffered, especially in Europe. Every time the economy or depression hurt, it's the Jews. Every time something happens, the Jews. That's what the European programs was. The program, I don't know how to say it. It's unbelievable. My head is killing me, by the way. I don't know why, man.
I'm getting there.
Wait. Is this Bill Maher? Where's Bill Maher?
Beliefs. Now, the federal government has said, in the case of this Mahmoud Khalil, who's the Columbia University Hamas-loving activist, not my politics by a long shot. He's for the destruction of Western civilization.
A student is... Wait. Hold on, you fucking garbage. A student in Columbia University is a threat to Western civilization. Do you believe that? Does that make any sense to you? You know, when they talk big like that, it's very strange. I mean, they have to respect our minds when we watch these programs, unless you're an idiot, that is students whose wife is an American citizen, who's about to have a child who's an American citizen, who is protesting against the genocide in Gaza, is a danger to Western civilization. I wonder if he has nuclear weapons in his ass. Allah.
The memo does not allege any criminal conduct against him.
It doesn't, yeah.
Permanent U.S. resident, but rather that he could be expelled for his beliefs. See, it's a tough time. Well, you got to be really related to deportation, but tricky.
See, Bill Maher, for all his faults, I like his thing. He's like, I don't like this guy, and he's making a lot of lies about him. That freedom of speech. Because he's been a victim of it. He used to have a show called Politically Correct on ABC. And after 9/11, he said something stupid. I don't know what he said. And he lost his whole show. He lost his livelihood. And he had to come back on HBO to regain his career. So he knows what it is like to be ostracized for your speech, of your freedom of speech. Good. Come on, man.
Deportation, but trickier question. What about beliefs? Now, the federal government has said, in the case of this Mahmoud Khalil, he's the Columbia University Hamas-loving activist, not my politics by a long shot. He's for the destruction of Western civilization. Just to give you where he's at.
Yeah. Where is it? You never said that.
A
lie.
memo signed by Marco Rubio. The memo does not allege any criminal conduct against him.
There's no law.
A legal permanent U.S. resident, but rather that he could be expelled for his beliefs.
Remember the law I told you that the Secretary of State could deport anybody you want for any reason? That they're using the same law that they used to use against the Jews in 1950 to deport Muslim students. The same law that was created to deny Jewish Americans in the 1950s of due process and deport them as sympathizers or a member of the Communist Party. Same law, same thing, different day. Go ahead.
Well, you got to be really sticky with you got to stick to your principles. Like, this guy is, to me, the worst of the worst, but I don't think you can throw people out of this country for disappearing.
Look at Pierce, he has a green card.
That's free speech.
It's more complicated. It's more complicated because it is because he's not a U.S. citizen. He's on a green. Well, hang on. Let me just give my view, and you can.
The First Amendment applies to everyone.
You can educate me when I finish.
I will.
This is the problem. Pierre Morgan is from a place where they fucking still suck the king's dick. Excuse my language. You know, they give oral job to King Charles. We are from the United States. That's the difference between us and us. The U.S. Constitution guarantees everybody freedom of speech. Even visitors who are here on vacation could fucking talk out of their ass as long as they don't harm nobody. But right now we're heading, in a dark time, man, and it's dangerous when you have people look like Piers Morgan saying, "Well, he's not an American citizen. He's a green card. Soon they're gonna get the American citizen." You didn't hear the president says that if any violent Americans commit crime, he's gonna deport them to El Salvador, or what is it? Is it Guatemala or El Salvador, to put them in jail over there? Yeah, let's see what you got to say there, Piers.
So this guy, Mahmoud Khalid, he is in the country on a green card. He came in, I think, in 2022. And by the criteria of that, the Secretary of State has absolute power to remove somebody who's in the country on a green card, even if they haven't committed a crime, if he believes they present a threat to national security, to the security of the United States. This guy, as you said, has been on record handing out pro-Hamas literature, screaming about wanting the destruction of Western civilization, leading a group which, as we saw with our own eyes, were terrorizing Jewish students at Columbia, who were creating violence and vandalism. People were being taken to hospital. They were stopping students from
never happened.
It does not allege any criminal conduct.
It doesn't have to.
Okay.
Well, it doesn't have to, according to you.
I would just, at this point, quote your late great friend Christopher Hitchens, who famously wrote that when every single time that you violate or propose to violate the free speech rights of anyone, you are making a rod for your own back. Okay? This is not something, hate speech, offensive speech, objectionable speech, that's the only speech that needs defending. The speech that everyone agrees with doesn't need any defending at all.
Supporting a terrorist organization.
But that's an allegation that
he was handing out pro-Hamas literature.
No, he was handing out pro-Palestinian literature.
No, actually, some of it was pro-Hamas literature.
And by the way, criticizing Israel's policies is...
Now, mind you, Josh Rogan is Jewish. He's a Jewish American. So he'll be more sympathetic to Israel, right? What he's saying is, I'm an American citizen, and we have due process, and we don't deport anybody. And Piers Morgan is a fucking piece of shit, man. He's a racist piece of garbage. That's why he lost his job in Good Morning Britain. What he's saying, he was handing pro-Hamas literature. He never did that. He never said anything. He's on record in an interview on April 9 with Wolf Blitzer. Look it up. You can't find it. I think they scraped it off the internet. What he's saying, the same thing like the other video I said, that he said that anti-Semitism has no place in the movement. And we have the same cause as Jews did when they wanted a nation state. And he has said nothing about wiping out Western society. I don't know how he's going to do that. I don't know.
Not a crime. It is a perfectly legitimate thing to do.
No one's saying it is.
And by the way, Bill, Gazans are not refugees. They live there. That's their home. That's why people aren't taking them in. Because
he's telling that to Bill Maher, who earlier said, why I don't know who's talking. Why aren't the Arabs taking refugees like everybody else? In other words, why aren't they accepting ethnically cleansed Palestinians? You see how these people are hypocrites. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to understand, any American who's watching this show or ever, My show is not about hatred, about thing, or about right wing, left wing. It's about truth and honesty. These so-called celebrity or people who make news people like Piers Morgan and Bill Maher are established liars. They're an establishment liars who are a member of a certain group that they think their career depend on not saying things and they're supposed to say. Look at the media. The legend is ignoring Gaza. How many? They don't have nobody on the ground. Vietnam had more reporters in Vietnam in the jungles than they ever had. In Gaza, they didn't even have one reporter. You understand? But Josh Rogan, God bless him, he's not a dishonest person. He's not going to come back no more because he spoke his mind. Bill Maher doesn't like people who are independently thinking.
They're not refugees. And if we make them into refugees, then we're committing an offense on them. Okay. So it's important to think of this in the context of, do we want to create a society where anti-Semitism or the fight against anti-Semitism is used as a justification to permit the violation of civil liberties, the destruction of a generation of scientific research at our top universities, and the encroachment of the surveillance state? You know, I don't have to be Jewish to say no thank you. I don't want that.
Okay,
I'm okay with that.
All right, what if I was a young student at Columbia, they're on a green card, British, come in, happy to be here, do all my paperwork, get to Columbia, and I start leading a group which is a bunch of white supremacists, and we start terrorizing black students.
There's a difference. You see, they always go to the easy card. Let's blame it on the whites. The boogeyman. The whites are the boogeyman. Ooh. I mean, why would you make that? These people have nothing to do with white supremacy. They're not saying they want to take over any place. They were saying stop the genocide. That's all they're saying, man. And for you to be on TV and to repeat this, shame on you. He has his own show. This garbage. I will never watch it again. I'm going to watch it if I need some content.
In the way that they were terrorizing Jewish students. Well, hang on.
Where's the terror? Could you give me a police report?
With this, or is it the reality which was exposed by the mobs at Columbia, which is that for some reason Jews get treated differently to anybody else when it comes to this kind of thing? Because if that had been, honestly, white supremacists treating black students like that, they would be out the country in 10 minutes. In 10 minutes.
This is all lies, man. The whole idea is, I'm telling you what the shtick is. They want to, and they succeeded, they want to create any criticism of the Israeli war, and they have married it with anti-Semitism. So they want to muddy the water. If you say the word Israel, you have to turn around. And if you say it, you might lose your your green card, or you might get deported, or your student visa, or if you're naturalized citizen, they might come for you. You understand? This is the whole thing. They want to create this idea of if you criticize a foreign government, you are criticizing Jews in America, and it has not. The two things have nothing to do with water. It's like water and oil. We should have the right to criticize it. You see, the whole idea is you could say anything about America. You could go out and burn the American flag, and nothing will happen to you. But God forbid, if you say something about Israel, it's over. You understand? This is not right. And I mean, let them go. I don't know how far they're going to get away with this shit. I'm going to sit here and just watch. Yeah, you got the claps. These are 80. They clap at anything. There's an applause sign.
Defending the right to argue and paranoia are part of the Jewish values that I was raised with, okay? And I think Judaism has, the Jewish values that I was raised with are about tolerance and inclusivity and compassion and a respect for human rights and respect for the environment and respect for the essential oneness of humanity. And none of those things are exhibited by throwing anti-Israel protesters out of the country, okay? And that's not what I think Judaism stands for. But you don't have to be a Jew to be for human rights. And when people cross the line into violence or harassment, that's a different story. But that's a straw man. We're not talking about that.
No, as always, I think there's a reasonable compromise, and it always exists. I think the right has to admit that you can't disappear people for their beliefs, and the left has to admit that some beliefs are virulent, that all beliefs are not the same. If you're pro-Hamas, you're for Sharia law. Sharia law.
Here we go, Sharia law. He goes through all the boogeyman shit. Oh, Sharia. This is all the witches' brew, they call it.
It's not just different than our way of government, it's worse.
Anyway, the Hamas, whatever, they're fighting in Israel. They're not fighting the United States. They haven't attacked that. As a matter of fact, Israel has killed more Americans than the terrorist group Hamas.
You're wanting to put women in burqas.
Here you go with the women in burqas.
They're not.
But who gets to decide what's the harmful speech? Is it Marco Rubio? Who do you trust?
I'm on your side of this. This was just my compromise. The left doesn't admit that. That's the problem. Is that these kids are out there and they treat a terrorist organization with the most illiberal beliefs in the world as some sort of liberating force.
It's ridiculous.
Some sort of force for good. Intifada today, this kind of stuff. And as long as, again, they're over there with that, you will get the pendulum way over there with that.
I agree with you. I hate what they say, and I will defend to my death their right to say it.
Okay, but what about if he had said all this at his green card interview? Would he have got a green card? No. No. If he said, I support a prescribed terror group in the United States, you're not coming in on a green card. All Marco Rubio is doing, it seems to me, is taking it back to that scenario and saying, well, if you'd been honest then, and by the way, he was dishonest on his green card application about other...
Well, when he got his green card, there was no genocide in Gaza. These are his people. He has to say something. He's not the DJ Khaled, brother.
This way. All right, slightly related to deportation, but trickier question. What about beliefs? Now, the federal government has said, in the case of this Mahmoud Khalil, he's the Columbia University Hamas-loving activist, not my politics.
See how he described him?
He's for the destruction of Western civilization, in his words, just to give you where he's at.
All right, so I think we saw this.
Israeli politician.
Hold on. I think we saw this already. Anyway, the whole idea, Josh Rogan of the New York Times, who's Jewish, American, he said Judaism is not about silencing other people. It's not about demonizing other people. It's not about the massacre and genocide of other people. You cannot use Judaism and paint it with Zionism. There's two different things. And they're going to succeed in putting them together, I know, because they know how to do this stuff. You know, it is what it is. Let me show you the mindset of this. Imagine if an Arab have said this. Wait, watch.
5,000 people dead in Gaza. Wow. How do you feel?
It's very hard to be happy about it, but in a way, it makes me much more. I feel more secure after 45,000 terrorists died. I don't believe in innocent people in Gaza. As general.
Children?
What do you mean children? You know, you don't see shows, you don't speak to the children. It doesn't matter, children. They get it since they're babies. They get it. Kill a Jew and you'll be in heaven. Doesn't make different if he's a child 10 or I should let him grow up.
He's saying that it's okay to kill children because they're going to grow up and be terrorists. They're going to be anti-Jewish or anti-Israeli. So the whole idea is like, you know, the movie Minority Report, this is what it is. So he already knows those children will become very bad kids. So it's better to kill them now than to wait until they grow up. It is disgusting, man. This is probably an American Jew. Most of the people who are on the West Bank are from New York, who are beating up the Palestinians, taking their home, burning their villages, burning their cars every day. These are American citizens. And then if, God forbid, the Palestinians do something to them, we go crazy. Oh, that's an American citizen. Bring them home. They should not be breaking the laws in other countries. If not, they have to give up the American passport. You can't have both. You can't have the protection of the United States and create crimes in the name of the in the name of Israel. It doesn't work.
Until he'll be 18, and then to wait until he's going to come with a rifle or with a gun and shoot me. That's not. They don't educate for peace, love, or whatever. They educate for killing Jewish.
Babies?
Babies?
Doesn't matter. Kill 'em.
I wouldn't kill no baby. But I'm not gonna stop bombing because there's babies in enemy cities or in enemy places because they kill my babies. So what should I do? If they throw rockets from a kindergarten, what should I do? Should I let them because there's babies there? No one would do that. I have to protect my babies, not protect their babies. If they want to protect their babies, take them out. What the fuck? Take them out.
All right, go fuck yourself. See how evil it is? I had some other stuff. I'm not going to do it. Anyway, we had a good show today, right? So the whole idea, let me put this in closing before I go. The only thing we have in the United States that is special is free speech and the free expression. We are the only nation that has unlimited and unthreaded free speech. Right now, that is in danger, and it's going to be eaten away little by little. And if you think it's only about Muslim students or Palestinian students, you got things coming. You're going to be next. Everybody's going to be next. Once we start compromising on our freedom of speech, on our God-given right to speak our ideas and beliefs and to protest, then we are going down a slippery slope. America was a nation that was born from under protest. People protested. You understand? So it is what it is. I mean, what they're doing right now, this new law that people cannot speak, is going to silence a lot of people. You're going to see a lot of people who are immigrant. They're going to get off social media or just talk about flowers and water and elephants for the next 4 or 5 years until we get things together or get our mind back together. Anyway, man, I'll see you next time. Love you all. God bless you. God bless the United States of America. Bye-bye. See, that's how I do it. Still here, right? I can't leave. I'm going to stay here until tomorrow. I can't end the stream. Hold on. It's all about love. All about love. All you need is love. All you need is love. Cannot live. Well, oh, okay. See, I'm pressing the wrong thing. You see? Love you all, man. Goodbye, man. Sorry about that.